Is your relationship running on fumes? Spotting the warning lights of infidelity? Alright, let's get real here. When trust breaks down in a relationship, it's a gut-wrenching, soul-crushing experience. You start questioning everything, wondering if you're going crazy, or if those little nagging feelings are actually big, blaring red flags you just can't ignore anymore. Now, I'm not here to tell you that every little hiccup means your partner's stepping out. That's not how this works. But what I am here to do is to help you tune into some common warning signs, some behavioral shifts that, frankly, ought to make you raise an eyebrow and say, hold on a minute, what's really going on here? Because being naive, sticking your head in the sand, that's a one-way ticket to Heartbreak Hotel, and you deserve better than that. So if you've been feeling that something's off, if your gut's screaming at you but your head's trying to make excuses, then this video is for you. We're gonna lay out some common indicators, not so you can become a paranoid snoop, but so you can be informed, aware, and empowered to have the conversations you need to have. It's time to stop driving blind and start seeing the road ahead clearly. Let's get to it. That phone from open book to Fort Knox lockdown. Alright, let's talk about that little device that's practically glued to everyone's hand these days, the cell phone. Now, in a healthy, trusting relationship, phones are usually no big deal. You might know each other's passcodes, or maybe you don't even have them because there's nothing to hide. But when things start to go south, that phone can become Exhibit A. You following me? It's often the first place the secrets start to pile up, and the behavior around it changes dramatically. Suddenly, is that phone guarded like it contains national security secrets? I'm talking about new passwords you've never heard of, the screen always angled away from you, or a sudden habit of taking calls in another room, whispering like a secret agent. These aren't just minor quirks, these are shifts in behavior. If they used to leave their phone lying around face up, no problem, and now it's always in their pocket or clutched in their hand, that's a change. You gotta ask yourself, why the sudden need for such intense privacy? Think about it. If everything was open and transparent before, what's different now? Are they suddenly developing a top-secret project they can't tell you about? Probably not. More often than not, this increased secrecy around the phone is because there's communication happening on that device that they absolutely do not want you to see. It's not about you being nosy, it's about them creating an environment of suspicion where one didn't exist before. This isn't about demanding access or turning into some kind of phone detective. I'm not telling you to start snooping. What I am telling you is that a sudden, unexplained shift towards intense phone privacy is a legitimate concern. It's a deviation from the norm, and in a relationship, deviations from the norm, especially around communication, need to be understood. Don't just sweep it under the rug hoping it'll go away. So what do? You don't go accusing them right off the bat, that'll just put them on the defensive. You casually, calmly, bring it up. Something like, hey, I've noticed you seem a bit more private with your phone lately, almost protective of it. Is everything okay? You're not accusing, you're inquiring. You're opening a door for a conversation about a behavior change. Pay close attention to their reaction. Are they dismissive? Do they get angry and accuse of being suspicious or controlling? Or do they have a reasonable explanation? A guilty person often overreacts, gets defensive, or tries to turn the tables. Someone with nothing to hide is usually more open to discussing your concerns, even if they think you're being a little sensitive. Remember, transparency is a cornerstone of trust. If that phone has suddenly become a vault, and they're unwilling to even discuss why their behavior around it has changed, that's a big old red flag waving right in your face. It means they're prioritizing whatever is on that phone over your peace of mind and the openness of your relationship. And you gotta ask yourself, why would they do that unless they had something to hide? It's not about the phone itself. It's about the surrounding the phone. It's about the shift from openness to secrecy. When that happens, it's a signal that something's changed, and you have every right to understand what that is. Don't let them gaslight you into thinking your concern is the problem. The problem is the secrecy. The sudden glow-up, new look, new attitude, new affair. Next up, let's talk about appearance. Now, people change. They get new hobbies, they decide to get healthier, they want to update their style, and that's all well and good. Self-improvement is great. But what we're looking for here is a transformation, especially when it's combined with other suspicious behaviors. Are you with me on this? I'm talking about your partner who maybe hasn't bought new clothes in 5 years, suddenly investing in a whole new wardrobe, and it's not the stuff they usually wear. Or they start hitting the gym like they're training for the Olympics, when before, Their idea of a workout was walk into the fridge. New hairstyle, new expensive cologne or perfume they've never worn, sudden meticulous attention to grooming they never bothered with before. You gotta ask yourself, who is this transformation for? Is it genuinely for themselves or for you? Or is there a new audience they're trying to impress? If your partner suddenly starts looking like $1,000,000, but their attention towards hasn't improved or has even declined, then you have to wonder about the motivation behind this sudden glow-up. It's about the context, people. This isn't about knocking someone for wanting to look good, heavens no. But if your partner, who used to be comfortable in sweatpants and a t-shirt around the house, is now constantly dressed to the nines, even when they're just running errands, it's worth noticing. Especially if this new dedication to their appearance coincides with them being more distant or secretive. One sign on its own might be nothing, but when they start stacking up, you gotta pay attention. Think about it. If someone is embarking on a new romantic adventure, they often want to present the best version of themselves. It's human nature. They get that little spark, that excitement, and it translates into taking better care of their appearance. They're trying to be attractive, to woo someone new. It's part of the chase for many people. This isn't rocket science, folks. So what's the play here? Again, you don't jump down their throat with accusations. You can start by complimenting the change genuinely. Wow, honey, you're really looking sharp lately. That new shirt looks great on you. What inspired the new style? Or, you've been so dedicated to the gym, that's fantastic. What got you so motivated all of a sudden? See what they say. Listen to their response. Is it open and enthusiastic? Do they share their reasons freely? Or do they get defensive, vague, or try to brush off your compliment or question? If they're doing it for themselves or for you, they'll likely be pleased you noticed. If it's for someone else, your questions might make them uncomfortable, and that discomfort can be telling. Remember, a sudden, unexplained overhaul in appearance, especially when coupled with other red flags like secrecy or emotional distance, can be a strong indicator that they're trying to impress someone new. It's not definitive proof. Nothing is on its own, but it's another piece of the puzzle. Don't ignore it just because you want to believe the best. You gotta look at the whole picture. Intimacy fluctuations, too hot, too cold, or just plain weird. Alright, let's get into a sensitive area, but a crucial one: intimacy. The physical and emotional connection between partners is often a barometer for the health of the relationship. So, when there are significant, unexplained shifts in your intimate life, whether it's a nosedive or a sudden, out-of-character surge, you need to pay attention. This ain't just about sex, it's about closeness, affection, and the way you connect on that deeper level. The most commonly thought of sign is a decrease in intimacy. Maybe your partner is suddenly too tired all the time, or they have headaches more often than not. They might start avoiding physical contact, pulling away from hugs, or finding reasons to go to bed at different times. This withdrawal can be a sign of guilt, or it could be that they're getting their intimate needs met elsewhere, plain and simple. It's a painful reality, but it's one you gotta consider. When someone is cheating, the emotional and physical energy they once invested in your relationship might be diverted to this new person. That leaves less for you. They might feel guilty, and that guilt makes it hard for them to be close to you, or frankly, they might just not be as interested anymore because their focus has shifted. It's a cold, hard truth, but it happens. Now here's where it gets a little tricky. Sometimes, and this might surprise you, a cheating partner might actually the frequency of intimacy. This can happen for a couple of reasons. One, they might be overcompensating out of guilt, trying to prove to you, and maybe to themselves, that everything is fine. They're trying to throw you off the scent, so to speak. It's a smokescreen. Another reason for a sudden increase or even new behaviors in the bedroom could be that they're learning new things with their affair partner and trying them out at home. If your partner suddenly introduces new tricks or desires that seem to come out of nowhere, you might wonder where they picked those up. It's not always the case, but it's a possibility that, in the context of other signs, becomes more suspicious. The key here is a for specific relationship. What's your baseline? What's been typical for you as a couple? If there's a sudden and sustained deviation from that baseline, either way, too much or too little or just plain different, it's a signal that something has shifted. Don't just ignore it or hope it resolves itself. So how do you address this without making things worse? You need to have a gentle, non-accusatory conversation. Something like, "Honey, I've noticed things feel a bit different between us intimately lately, and I just wanted to check in. Is there something on your mind or anything I can do? I miss our connection. Focus on us and we, and express your own feelings." Your goal is to open a dialogue, not to launch an interrogation. You want to understand the shift. Their reaction to this gentle approach will tell you a lot. Are they willing to talk, to connect, to address your concerns, or do they shut down, get defensive, or blame you? The way they respond to your vulnerable bid for connection can be very revealing. Now let's talk about time and accountability. In any relationship, people have their own lives, their jobs, their friends, their commitments. That's normal. But when your partner starts having a whole lot of commitments that are vague, unexplained, or come with flimsy excuses, your internal alarm bells should be ringing. Are you hearing me on this? This isn't about controlling someone's every move, it's about reasonable transparency. Suddenly, working late becomes a nightly occurrence, but they can't really tell you what project is keeping them so swamped. Or helping out a friend becomes a frequent go-to, but the details about which friend or what kind of help are always fuzzy. Maybe there are new hobbies or activities that take up huge chunks of time and you're never invited, nor do you hear much about them. The excuses just don't quite add up. They might change their story if you ask a follow-up question, or they get irritated that you're even asking. This vagueness is a problem. If you were truly where you said you were, doing what you said you were doing, why would it be so hard to offer a simple, straightforward explanation? Why the defensiveness? That's what you gotta ask yourself. This pattern of unexplained absences and weak excuses creates an atmosphere of doubt and suspicion. You start feeling like you need to be a detective, trying to piece together their whereabouts. And that's an exhausting and unhealthy way to live. A partner who values the relationship should want to ease your mind, not make you feel like you're interrogating them for basic information. Think about it from their perspective. If they're hiding something, vague excuses give them wiggle room. If they don't give details, they can't be caught in a lie about those details later. It's a way to maintain their secret life while offering just enough of an explanation to hopefully get you off their back. But it rarely works in the long run because the inconsistency and lack of substance become glaring. So what's the approach here? You don't want to sound like the Spanish Inquisition. Instead of accusatory questions like, "Were you at work last night until 10 p.m.?" Try more open-ended questions. Something like, "Oh, you were working late again? Must be a tough project, how's it coming along?" Or, "Sounds like you had a long night with friend's name. What were you guys up to?" Listen carefully to their answers. Are they forthcoming with details? Does the story make sense, or do they clam up, get defensive, or give you a story that's full of holes? The more they have to hide, the harder it is to keep their story straight, and the more likely they are to react poorly to even gentle questioning about their time. Remember, it's not about needing a minute-by-minute itinerary of your partner's life, it's about the pattern. If your partner is consistently unavailable, unaccounted for, and offers excuses that just don't hold water, that's a significant red flag. It suggests they might be spending that unexplained time with someone else or doing something they don't want you to know about. And that's a problem you can't afford to ignore. Chapter 5. The Emotional Grand Canyon. When your partner checks out emotionally. One of the most painful red flags, and often one of the most telling, is when an emotional Grand Canyon opens up between you and your partner. I'm talking about that feeling that they're physically present, but emotionally they're a million miles away. That connection, that spark, that feeling of being truly seen and heard by your partner, it starts to fade or it disappears altogether. This is a big one, folks. You might notice they stop sharing the details of their day with you. The little things, the big things, the frustrations, the joys. You're no longer their go-to person. Conversations become superficial, like you're talking to a polite acquaintance rather than the person you share your life with. They might show little interest in your feelings, or what's important to you. It's like a wall goes up. They might seem constantly preoccupied, lost in thought, or just plain indifferent to what's happening around them, especially when it involves you or the relationship. You try to connect, to talk, to share, and you're met with a blank stare, a one-word answer, or an impatient sigh. This isn't just a bad mood that lasts a day or two, this is a sustained pattern of emotional withdrawal and detachment. Why does this happen? Well, if someone is developing an emotional connection with another person, their emotional energy and focus naturally shift. There's only so much emotional bandwidth to go around. If they're investing their feelings, their thoughts, and their intimate disclosures elsewhere, there's simply less left for you. They might also be pulling away emotionally out of guilt or an inability to juggle two emotional fronts. This emotional distance can leave you feeling incredibly lonely, confused, and even unloved, even if your partner is still physically there. You might start to question yourself, wondering what you did wrong to cause them to pull away. But more often than not, this kind of profound emotional checkout is about and what's going on in internal world or their external secret world. So, what do you do when you feel this chasm growing? You need to try and have a real heart-to-heart conversation, and I mean a one. Choose a calm moment and express how you're feeling using I statements. Something like, honey, I've been feeling really disconnected from you lately, like we're not on the same page emotionally anymore, and it's making me feel sad, lonely, worried. Is everything okay with you? Is there something going on with us that we need to talk about? Your goal is to express your emotional reality and invite them to share theirs. You're not accusing them of cheating. You're talking about the emotional climate of your relationship, their willingness or unwillingness to engage in this conversation, to acknowledge your feelings and to work on reconnecting will tell you a whole lot about where their priorities lie. If they dismiss your feelings, deny there's a problem, or refuse to engage, that emotional canyon is likely to get wider. And that's a clear sign that the foundation of your relationship is in serious trouble. Don't let that emotional distance become the new normal. Your emotional well-being in the relationship matters. Next, let's talk about nitpicking and provoking. Are they picking fights to push you away? Alright, let's talk about the atmosphere in your home. Has it suddenly turned into a verbal minefield? Are you constantly walking on eggshells, afraid that any little thing you say or do is going to set your partner off? If your partner has started picking fights over nothing, getting irritable at the drop of a hat, or being overly critical of you, that can be another subtle but significant red flag. Now, every couple argues. Disagreements are normal. But what we're talking about here is of increased conflict, especially when the fights seem to come out of nowhere, or are about completely trivial things. It's like they're for a reason to be angry, to create tension, to find fault with you. This isn't just a bad mood, it's a shift in their default way of interacting with you. Why would someone do this if they're cheating? Well, it can be a tactic, whether conscious or subconscious, to create distance. If they're constantly mad at you, or making you feel like you can't do anything right, it makes it easier for them to justify their behavior in their own mind. See, my relationship is terrible, no wonder I'm looking elsewhere. It's a twisted kind of rationalization. This constant conflict can also be a way to push you away. If they make being around them so unpleasant, maybe, just maybe, be the one to get fed up and leave. Then they don't have to be the bad guy who ends the relationship or confesses to an affair. They can play the victim of a difficult partner. It's a manipulative strategy, and it's incredibly damaging to your self-esteem. You might find yourself constantly trying to appease them, to avoid conflict, to make things nice, but it never seems to work for long. The goalposts keep moving and the criticism continues. This creates an environment of anxiety and resentment, and it chips away at any goodwill that's left in the relationship. It's a toxic cycle. So how do you handle this without getting sucked into endless, pointless arguments? First, you gotta try to stay calm. Easier said than done, I know, especially when you feel unfairly attacked. But if you escalate, you're just playing into their hands. They fight in many cases. Don't give it to them on their terms. Instead of getting defensive about the argument, like whether you left the cap off the toothpaste, try to address the behavior. In a calm moment, not in the heat of battle, you could say something like, I've noticed we've been arguing a lot more lately, and it often feels like you're upset with me over small things. It's making me feel anxious, sad, confused. Can we talk about what's really going on here, because this isn't like us? Focus on the shift in their behavior and how it's impacting you in the relationship. Is this a new way for them to act? If this constant nitpicking and fight-picking is out of character and part of a larger pattern of troubling signs, you need to see it for what it might be, a symptom of a deeper problem, potentially including infidelity. Don't just endure it, address it. Next topic, social media shenanigans. When their online life looks a little too shady. In this day and age, social media is a huge part of many people's lives. It can be a way to connect, to share, and to stay in touch, but it can also be a place where secrets are kept, flirtations happen, and a whole lot of shady business goes down. So, if your partner's social media behavior suddenly takes a weird turn, you better believe that can be a red flag waving in the digital wind. What kind of changes am I talking about? Well, it could be that they suddenly become incredibly private with their accounts. New passwords you don't know, blocking you from seeing certain posts or friends lists. or even unfriending or unfollowing you. If they were always open before, this newfound secrecy is suspicious. Why the sudden need to hide their online activity from specifically? On the flip side, sometimes a cheating partner might go into overdrive posting about how happy they are, or how wonderful your relationship is, almost to an unbelievable, over-the-top degree. This can be a way to create a public facade, to throw people, including you, off the scent. It's like they're trying too hard to sell a story that ain't quite true. It's performative. Then there's the issue of new friends or followers they're suddenly interacting with. A lot. We're talking constant liking, commenting, or private messaging with someone you've never heard of, or someone they're being suspiciously vague about. If these interactions seem overly familiar, flirty, or secretive, that's a major concern. They might be building a connection online that's crossing appropriate boundaries. Other suspicious online behaviors include quickly deleting comments or messages, especially if you happen to glance over their shoulder. Or maybe they change their relationship status to single, or it's complicated, or remove it altogether. Perhaps you see photos where you're conspicuously absent from events they told you were no big deal, or they're tagged in places with people they didn't mention. The digital footprints can be very telling. So, what's the game plan here? You don't want to become an obsessive social media stalker, that's not healthy for anyone. But if you notice clear and concerning changes, you have a right to ask about them, casually. Something like, "Hey, I noticed you changed your privacy settings on Facebook. Just curious why you decided to do that." Or, "Who's this person's name you seem to be chatting with a lot online lately? Are they a new friend from work?" Again, pay close attention to their reaction. Are they open and straightforward with their answer? Or do they get defensive, evasive, or accuse you of snooping or being jealous? If their online behavior is innocent, they should have no problem explaining it. If they're hiding something, your questions will likely make them very uncomfortable. Ultimately, their online persona and interactions should generally align with the reality of your relationship. If there's a major disconnect, if their social media life seems to be telling a different story than the one you thought you were living, that's a sign that something is amiss. Don't let them tell you it's just online. It doesn't mean anything. Online connections can be just as real and just as damaging as offline ones. Outro: navigating the storm, your next steps when red flags appear. Alright, we've covered a lot of ground today, a lot of potential warning signs that can turn your world upside down. Now, the most important thing I can tell you is this: trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. But, and this is a big but, don't immediately jump to the worst-case scenario and start throwing accusations around like confetti. Panic rarely leads to good decisions. Instead, take a deep breath. What you need to do is communicate openly, honestly, but calmly. Talk about the changes you've observed, how they make you feel. Watch for patterns of behavior, because one isolated incident might be nothing, but a series of these red flags, that's a different story. And if these conversations go nowhere, or if the problematic behaviors continue, you might need to consider professional help, like relationship counseling, to navigate these troubled waters, whether together or to help you decide your own path forward. Remember, awareness is your first and best defense. Being informed about these signs isn't about creating suspicion where there is none. It's about empowering you to recognize when your relationship might be in jeopardy. You deserve honesty, respect, and fidelity. Don't settle for less. Take care of yourselves and each other.